Is the 80-20 rule really the best way to train, or is there a better way for you? The short answer is the 80-20 rule is often not the best fit for most people, and the better way to focus is on recoverable volume and intensity. We'll cover exactly what that means and why it's one of the most important things for your training and your progress. You've probably heard of it, the idea that training should be 80% easy, 20% hard. It sounds balanced, it sounds good, but for most of us, especially those of us pushing yourselves in challenging events like Hyrox, relying solely on that rule can actually hold you back. Let's get into it. So first of all, where does this 80-20 rule even come from? Well, it's actually an old rooted principle called the Pareto principle. It's a broader concept that suggests roughly 80% of all the outcomes from 20% of the work. In the training world, it mostly came from observing elite athletes, elite endurance athletes. Think of marathon runners, cyclists, swimmers. They're putting in tons of hours every week. Coaches noticed these athletes would spend the vast majority of their time around 80% at low or easy intensity, saving that precious 20% for hard, high intensity efforts like intervals or thresholds. And for them, with that massive volume of training, it works. But here's why it often falls short of the rest of us, especially in a sport like Hyrox. We're not trying to shave off a few seconds off a 10K or add kilos to a 1RM bench press. We're developing a whole spectrum of fitness qualities, sometimes simultaneously, other times with a more focused approach to one area. We need serious endurance, yes, but also muscular endurance, raw strength, explosive power, mental toughness for all the challenges of Hyrox. Trying to squeeze the development of all these different attributes into 20% hard training, especially if you're not training 15 to 20 hours a week, it's not efficient, it's not effective for most people. And the biggest point really is you're not doing lots of hours training every week. It's probably not best for you unless you are. So if the 80-20 isn't the best answer, what is? Well, my recommendation is recoverable volume and intensity, and that is the key. This is so important because it's all about what you as an individual can actually recover from. It moves us away from a one-size-fits-all rule into a more personalized approach. Let's break it down with what these terms mean in practice. So volume is the total amount of training you're doing. In Hyrox, it's everything you're training. Your total running distance, the meters on the ergs, reps for burpee, broad jumps, wall balls, all your Hyrox stuff, as well as any strength training. It's a sum of all the training you're doing. That's your volume. Intensity is how hard you're pushing yourself during that training. Intensity could be the amount of weight you're lifting. Well, it's not even the weight you're lifting, it's how hard the weight is for you, or the speed that you're hitting on the running machines, or the work you're doing. It's all relative to you. The more you push yourself with your weights, your runs, your workouts, in general, it's how hard the intensity is. So think of it as how long you're training for and how many days. So how much training you're doing and how hard you're pushing yourself during each session. Your recoverable volume and intensity is, simply put, the ideal amount of training performed at the right level of effort that you can continuously do and recover from. This capacity is unique to you. It's influenced by your training history, your current fitness, your sleep, your nutrition, your lifestyle, stress. It's everything you can recover from. Let me give you a quick example of me. This past week, I've managed nearly 50 kilometers, and I've built up to that, and I'm pretty happy with that. I'm doing that along my strength work. For some of you watching, that might sound like a good effort and a decent amount. For others, you might think that's hardly anything, and that's the point. Right, now let's consider someone like Lucy Davis. When she recently did Last Man Standing event, she ran 172 kilometers in just 25 and a half hours. That's more than 3 times my weekly volume in just one single day. And here's my point, I couldn't do 172 kilometers in a day. I couldn't manage that in a week. And if I tried, it'd take me 6 months to recover from, and I'd have a ton of injuries. The reason Lucy can achieve that kind of volume is because of the years and years of specific training and everything she's put into what she's done, her lifestyle, her sport, everything. For me, I can manage 50 kilometers because that's what I've progressed to and I've built up to. And even at that, I need to listen and pay attention to my body closely. So when you're figuring out your training, remember this, it's about what you can do and what you can actually recover from, not what you see other people doing. Don't compare. We're all different. Always take inspiration from others. I love taking inspiration from others. Just don't compare. If any of you've stood and watched the elites leave that starting pen, it's amazing how fast they can run. And then they keep running that speed. There's so many levels to this game, it's ridiculous. Make sure you work to your level. Let's go with a definition of easy. Easy is going to be different for everybody. It's someone saying zone 1 or zone 2 easy runs. It's not even that. What I'd say, that's a lot of people can't even run at zone 1. I can't. And slow running is something I've been working on, to the point that when I'm catching someone at walking, I feel I want to run a bit faster past them, or we're awkwardly side by side for a bit. And that's my zone 2. Elite athletes can easily run in zone 1. But when it comes to beginners and intermediates, you might find that you can run at zone 2. If you're not sure what the zones are for the run, think of zone 2 as where you can have a conversation, continuous conversation with somebody. So it should feel pretty comfortable. And then zone 1 would be even easier than that. What's important to take account here will also be the volume of the run, how long you're running for. If you're doing a 20 to 30 minute easy run, you might actually find it easy. If you make that an hour's easy run, you might actually find it's quite difficult, and then it becomes harder to recover from and not actually an easy session. This is where, for some people, the bike can be really useful. You can substitute some of your run with the bike or the ergs, as long as you can take it steady and make the ergs easy. And again, that's very different when you're seeing elite athletes do 10K on the ski ergs, steady, and then for other people, a big ski session might be 2K. You need to find what your easy is. If you do use bikes or ergs, just know that it will build your fitness, but a big part of doing the easy running is to get your joints and ligaments and everything else used to running. That's a big part of what easy running is used for. And what a lot's done for is in your general prep, so that when you increase the volume of your faster runs, your body can deal with it later on in your training. So the goal will be to eventually switch up from biking and running, if you're combining the two, to more running and less biking. But this can be done gradually. And this is where you need to then take into account everything you're doing, everything in the week, all the work that you're doing. What can you recover from? So how do we take this concept of recoverable volume and intensity and apply it directly to your Hyrox training? I'll give you some examples with it. So if you train 3 days a week, embrace the hard. If your schedule allows for, say, 3 training sessions a week, maybe 3 Hyrox classes, and you constantly push hard in all of those and you're always recovering from them, then you're getting that intensity where you can recover from it. So we're finding that you possibly could do more. In this scenario, you're not trying to fit to the 80-20% model, because it's just you're trying to maximize the time you've got. So you're going to push it hard for that session, or push it hard. Another example, if you're doing high volume, let's say 5 to 6 days a week, this is where the 80-20 might fit. This is where it gains more relevance, but only if this works out to be your recoverable volume. If you're training 5-6 days a week and you try and go all out in every single session, you'll hit a wall. Recovery becomes almost impossible. And what happens is your sessions become not as hard. They feel hard, but you'll often feel flat because you're constantly fatigued, and that's why they feel hard. You end up working more at a mid-hard level all the time, rather than hard when you want to go hard, because you're just always overtrained and under-recovered. This is when it makes sense to strategically plan. Maybe 2 truly hard sessions and the other 4 at a lower intensity to allow for adequate recovery. When a session is hard, it doesn't mean it has to be hard for 60 minutes. Part of the session could be hard and the rest could be easier. You're making it work for you. Or you could do 2 hard sessions, 1 medium session, 2 easy sessions. The key is finding what you can recover from and what helps you progress. If you're not recovering, you won't be getting faster, you won't be getting stronger, you won't be progressing. Another way to think of this is, think about maintaining versus developing. It's 2 different things. It's far harder to develop something than it is to maintain something. For maintaining, you want to be thinking of minimum effective dose. This is a brilliant concept for optimizing your recovery. Think about whether you're trying to develop a specific quality, like getting stronger in a bench press, or just maintaining it. I'll use that as an example. It's far easier to recover from maintenance work. The minimum effective dose means doing the least amount of work necessary to keep your strength or to keep a skill. So the example of the bench press, let's say I can bench 80 kilos for 8 reps, and my goal's just to maintain my strength, because my focus is on developing my running more. So I'll do a warm up, and then I'll do a set on 70 kilos, I'll do a set on 80 kilos, that's it, that'll maintain. But if I was trying to develop it, I'd have to have way more volume, more assistance exercise, making the session way harder to recover from. By maintaining, you get your upper body workout. You could do your push and your pull in 30, 40 minutes, freeing up more time to put into your running and freeing up more for your recovery to put into your running. And that's what's important. This can work in vice versa as well. If you come from a running background and you want to just maintain your running, then develop your strength, you do less running and you do more strength work. It's simple as that. And this is where periodization training comes into play, where you can do different phases of different types of training based on what you want to develop. One of the best ways to develop your running is to increase the volume, the amount of days you actually run on. But when you're increasing the volume of one area of training, just know you might need to decrease the volume or the intensity of other strength and fitness qualities. And that's the whole point of what I'm trying to get across here. One thing you can do, split your sessions. You might find them easier to recover from. If you find a 60-minute easy run not that easy and an hour of strength training not that easy, you might find it easier if you do 30 minutes easy, 30 minutes strength, 30 minutes easy, 30 minutes strength. And if you're wondering about the interference effect from training, don't worry about it. For most non-elite athletes, it's pretty minimal and shouldn't stop you from structuring your week efficiently. But if your lifestyle allows it, you can split it. For example, you could do 30 minutes easy run in the morning, followed by a 30-minute strength session later on in the day or later in the evening. It makes it more recoverable than one long session. This smart approach is why in the training programs I create, I use terms like development days and stimulation days. Development days are what they say, where we push harder and try and develop something. Stimulation is more of that maintenance, where we're doing enough work just to maintain it, saving your recovery for when you really need it. So for Hyrox and for achieving your fitness goals, let's move beyond that 80-20 rule. It's a simplification that often doesn't fit the demands of Hyrox training or your unique recoverable capacity. Instead, embrace recoverable volume and intensity. It's about intelligently applying the right levels of stress across all your training, your running, your strength, your functional movements, pushing hard enough to make progress on what you want to develop and back into maintenance on what you're just trying to maintain. This is also why you train in blocks, so periodization, so you can change the main emphasis at different times of the year. Most of my ebooks that I do work on this principle, but you can look to develop everything at the same time, and that's what the hybrid ebooks are like. The big difference is you're pushing hard enough to develop everything, but not that hard where you can still recover from everything. So it ends up meaning you develop small amounts in everything rather than bigger amounts in one individual thing. So by training with this approach of recoverable volume and intensity, it's the key to consistent gains, avoiding injury, that's a big one, and ultimately being the best you can at Hyrox. So to summarize, what is easy for someone else isn't going to be easy for you. It comes down to what training you're used to be doing, and it's about what you can recover from. Consistency is key, and making things easier so you don't have to have time out with injury or from overdoing things. That's what's most important. Always play the long game, and if you're not able to train, then you're out of the game. So train to what you can recover from. Yes, there has to be progressive overload, but it's progressive overload from a point that you can do and you can recover from. Don't try and force adaptations. The best adaptations come from long-term training and consistency. Recoverable volume and intensity is key. If this breakdown helped you see your training in a new light, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more training information, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you're doing. What's your biggest take from this? Let me know in the comments below.